I'm Roy, and this is my mixtape or playlist, as we call them these days. I've tried to do a playlist. This is like a Scout for Girls influence playlist of some of the most important songs or the key songs in my life. Number one is R.E.M. Near Wild Heaven. I was going to choose Losing My Religion, but I prefer Near Wild Heaven. It's on Out of Time, and I listened to that. That was the first album I ever listened to, and I suddenly woke up to the power of music, and I was suddenly like, wow, this is incredible. And it was through R.E.M. that I decided when I was about 13, 14 that I didn't want to do anything else other than be a musician. Number 2 and 3, I've got Oasis Slide Away and Blur the Universal. Both amazing songs, and when Greg and I were at school, Oasis and Blur were, were all over the charts. Britpop, ruled the airwaves. I think if you were a boy, you wanted to pick up a guitar or be Noel Gallagher. And I know we certainly did. We actually did, I still remember, we did a really terrible cover of Slide Away in a band we were at school, and I still remember we auditioned for I think it was like the school play, or not the school play, or like the music show, and during the time it took to play the entire song, all three of us, I was playing guitar, Greg was playing guitar, and a guy called Dean who's on the bass guitar, all three of us at one point in the song managed to drop our plectrums on the floor and had to pick up our plectrums at some point and carry on playing. But we did get into the show. It's through Oasis and Blur that I got into sort of 60s music, and so tracks 4 and 5 are a Beatles track and a Beach Boys track. They're both, I think any songwriter will influence Brian Wilson and Lennon and McCartney. They are, I think the Beatles still, it's sometimes when I think about the Beatles too much, I actually start getting depressed by how good they were and how there's nowhere else to go from what they've done. The Beatles song I chose was Nowhere Man, just because I love the harmonies in that, but I could have chosen, I could have done a 50, 100 track playlist of songs I would love to listen to every day for the rest of my life. Beach Boys are probably even more special to me. Brian Wilson, the harmonies which they created in a very, very poor way, sometimes me and Greg will try and recreate. That vocal harmonies are, like, as you know, in our band are really important. We love singing together. And the Beach Boys are one of the bands that opened my eyes to the possibilities of what a great vocal harmony can do when you've got alternate lines, singing, whether you've got rounds or you've got really close harmonies, or something singing different, a different melody over two melodies that work really well. And I think all the bands which I've referenced, like definitely R.E.M. always do it, Beatles do it, and the Beach Boys, are great for doing that. The song I chose was God Only Knows, which I think if I could only have one song, it would be that song. It's my favourite song of all time. It's just absolutely beautiful. The end bit, as it revolves round, I've stolen several times on B-sides. I think even Elvis Ain't Dead has like a hint of it in the middle. So yeah, Mr. Wilson, I salute you. I'm trying to get a bit more current now. Magic Numbers, Forever Lost. I remember hearing this. I still remember, I was in Car Fenway House. We had Radio 1 on all the time, and I remember hearing Forever Lost, and I was like, it was the first time I'd heard like guitar music or band music on Radio 1 for a long time, and it sounded completely new. This sort of melodic, vocal-led, but proper guitar band. And it was just before Scout for Girls got big. I spent like a year following them around, watching them show. That sounds a bit weird, not like that. I wasn't like around their houses, but what is quite nice is actually the last time we played V, we hung out with them and had a few beers with the guys, and they're really, really nice. But I followed them around the festivals, watched them every time, and really fell in love with that band. And I think what they did with their music and their harmonies influenced us, and it sort of in many ways opened a door for bands like us and the feeling to come through, and the sort of music which we make. Another band who came out, I think probably a little bit earlier than that, was Keane, and the song I'd have is Somewhere Only We Know, which was produced by the same producer who produced our records, Andy Green. You don't really have to say much about Keane. I think this song is just majestic. It's just killer. It's beautiful the first time you hear it. It's just amazing. And with Keane, again, for us, it was suddenly there was a piano in the mix. It sounded different. It sounded exciting, and so that's where we, as Scout for Girls, decided, you know, let's try. I used to, if you look on YouTube, there's some really early stuff of us. It's probably not a good thing to look, playing some songs, and I used to just play guitar. That guitar there, that Yamaha Pacifica in there, still, you know, and Greg was on bass and Pete was on drums. I never touched the piano, and it was when listening to bands like Keane and suddenly thought, maybe what would it sound like if piano was the lead instrument rather than guitar? It'd be a bit different. So that's what we tried, and that's how we ended up with the sort of sound you got on the first album. My track 8, Kate Nash, Mouthwash. The old Nash just reminds me so much of when our first album came out, when She's So Lovely and Heartbeat and Elvis. Around that time, there was that wave of new bands, like you know, like The Feeling had come before, but then around the same time of us, there was like bands like the Hoosiers and the Wombats and Kate Nash, Jack Pinati, all coming through, and there was, you know, it was felt like in sort of a small way, like a bit of a movement of sort of indie poppy bands, and I love that song. I love, you know, I really respect her as an artist. I think she makes great music. That's my favourite song from that album, and it just reminds me of that time. It's special for us. The most incredible time when your band breaks out. It's amazing. The same with the next song is The Script. I think Break Even is their best song. I think that's like an incredible, it's like one of those career, you know, one of those amazing songs which just come along maybe sometimes once in a career. But my favourite song for them is Before the Worst. I think it was a single right at the end of their campaign. But The Script, and just, I loved them so much, I listened to their album so much around the time when we were probably at the height of the first album, and everything we did was new. Like, we'd play a new you know, every place we played was bigger than the last, and suddenly we're going to Japan, suddenly we're going to Australia, we're going to Germany, you know, we're travelling the world, and it's like, whenever I put that song in, it almost gives me goosebumps, because it just reminds me of exactly that time. I sort of know exactly, you know, it brings back like a whole host of flashback images of playing gigs somewhere, or like waking up hungover and incredibly jet lagged in Australia, or suddenly being at home and sitting there and just watching TV and not moving off the sofa for 24 hours because you've been on the road for so long. And that song, whenever I hear it, just brings back all those memories. And then, taking up right up to the present now, I was going to have Plan B. She Said, that was here. I've written that down, I've scribbled it out, because he's probably going to beat us to the Ivan Novellos, as he beat us to #1 album. But it does remind me of this year and everything that's gone on with, you know, we've had an incredible year of This Ain't a Love Song, and Everybody Wants to Be on TV, and the amazing arena shows. But I've gone instead for CeeLo Green, Forget You. I'm sort of looking forward, because we've started doing a cheeky cover of this and it's going really well, and so I'm hoping that this song is going to, whenever I hear it in maybe 3 or 4 years time, it's going to remind me of this time, and maybe sitting in this room playing with these guys, or playing some of these amazing shows in the summer. And that's my playlist.